is Tanner McLachlan, tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals, a deep dynasty stash. We're talking about that in today's video. As always, like and subscribe. We put out content all year long, including these deep dynasty stash videos. We have a bunch of them out there. Some running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. We've done a few of them over the last this week, really, and a couple more earlier. But Tanner McLachlan, 6'5", 240 out of the University of Arizona. You see his 2023 numbers there, 45 catches, 528 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Actually pretty good numbers for a college tight end numbers. So pretty productive there. Went 6th round to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals actually hit 2 tight ends in this draft. As you know, they have Eric All, tight end, who they picked in round 4, and Tanner McLachlan, who they picked in round 6. And now everyone, from what I've seen, like Eric Hall is basically rostered on every team, every dynasty team, especially in tight end premium leagues. And honestly, I think Tanner McLachlan has like just as good of a chance. When you start talking about these 4th, 5th, 6th round guys, there's not maybe a whole lot that separates them. Yeah, it is Eric Hall has a little bit more. They're going to give him the chance maybe first, or he's going to have a little bit more of an opportunity to be the guy, sure. But I don't think it's just like locked down. Oh, he went 2 rounds earlier. He has to be the next guy in line. If McLachlan's just better, like he has a chance. And I kind of thought this way with like Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave last year. Kind of like everyone was taking Luke Musgrave because he went 2nd round. And I was like, well, Tucker Kraft went 3rd round. Like he could just be just as good. He has just as good of a chance, and I can get him for free, whereas I have to spend a draft pick on Luke Musgrave. Kind of the same idea here, with obviously a little bit later draft pick for both these guys, so they're both considered kind of dart throws. But again, you see the numbers there. We'll get into that a little bit more. Combine numbers, really, really good. It was kind of impressed to see some of these numbers. 4.61 for a tight end. Now, he is a little bit more of a lighter tight end. Now, I think he can put on 10 more pounds considering he's 6'5". But, he's 240, 244. I've seen anywhere from 240, 244. But he runs a 4.61, which is really good for a tight end. That's in the 88th percentile. His 10-yard split at 1.58 is really good. This is how fast you are within the first 10 yards, which is much more important for a tight end, in my opinion. And that's really good. It's in the 86th percentile for tight ends. His vertical at 35 inches is 72nd percentile for tight end. So, his height is up there in the 76th percentile. So a lot of things. He does have small hands, and as much as we want to laugh about that, that does matter for receivers and tight ends. Looking at some of the production numbers now, he spent I think he redshirted his first year in 2018. So he's been in college for a long ass time. He started off at the Southern Utah University, which Southern Utah University, I don't even think, I'm trying to check right now if it's Division I. Football, that is. It is Division I. It is Division I. So as a mosquito flies by, it's kind of like this Division I AA, I think is what they used to be called. Like it's the FCS, right? So it's the FCS school. So still Division I football, but kind of that next tier down from even the schools like San Diego State and stuff like that. He spent a lot of time there, and then his last 2 years at he transferred to the University of Arizona. So in terms of his production, these numbers are coming from the University of Arizona numbers. So only 2 years worth of numbers, essentially. He had an 11% career dominator, 12% single season high. For tight ends, again, dominator is what percentage of your team's passing offense were you responsible for. So him only 11% over the last 2 years at Arizona. We'd like to see this closer to 15%, but I do want to point out he was on a team in the Arizona Wildcats who were kind of stacked at wide receiver. His first year in 2022, he had guys like Jacob Cowing, or Coing, I always forget how to say it, Jacob Coing, Tet McMillan. Jacob Coing was a 3rd or 4th round pick by the 49ers this year. He had over 1,000 yards. Tet McMillan was Ted McMillan is a top 10 pick potentially in this year's draft coming up in 2025. And there's even another guy, Dorian Singer, who had over 1,100 yards. In 2023, Ted McMillan dominated with 1,400 yards. Jacob Coing was still there with 850 yards. So Tanner McLachlan was the clear number 3 or 4 option both his years. So you got to keep that in mind a little bit. Good PFF grade here. You see some of the yards per route run number. 1.35 is ideally we want to see this at 1.5 or higher. But it was at 1.35, 1.36 last year. Again, we want to see this above 1.5, but 1.35 is not terrible. ADOT at 8.1 is kind of normal for a tight end. Drop percentage at only 5.2% is fantastic. I think he had 2 years. He had 2 years just looking at his Southern Utah number. He had 2 years of where he didn't drop a pass. Last year, he did not drop a pass on 55 targets. I'm not sure how many of those were catchable, but he didn't drop a pass on 55 targets. So literally 10 of those were uncatchable, not considered drops. So he caught all of his passes, 45 catches. His contested catch percentage, 45.5 is not terrible. We want to see this north of 50%, especially for tight ends. Yak after reception, 5.7 is solid. Contested target percentage is a number I'm looking at a little bit more. What percentage of your targets are contested, and why I'm looking at this, because I think over the course of an entire career, this number kind of points to potentially your ability to run routes, your intelligence in finding the holes and zones and things like that. 18% is good for a tight end. Anything below 20 for a tight end is actually pretty good. So I like to see that number there. So there are some intriguing things. His yards per route run by scheme was a little bit better in man than zone, which is slightly concerning because we want to see you better in zone because that's why the majority of the NFL plays. And then you see his numbers here. He truly is an inline tight end, or that's how they used him in college, right? 625 snaps in line compared to under 200 either out wide or in the slot. So to me, he is going to be an inline tight end. That's where he's going to make his bread and butter. He's an interesting one for sure. Again, there's opportunity there for the Bengals. They've always been kind of they always had this tight end under the Joe Burrow Bengals who puts up 40, 50 catches, 500 yards or so. And we'll see about touchdowns. Obviously, you have Mike Gesicki there. You also have guys like Drew Sample, Tanner Hudson, Eric All. It's a crowded tight end room. So I don't know if they're going to be keeping 5 tight ends. So we'll see if he makes the team. If he can play special teams, which I think he can, then I think that's where he's going to make the team. Because I think he has some intriguing receiving stat abilities. Again, his versatility, his really good speed, right? He finds that hole in the zones, really good hands. He doesn't drop passes. He, again, has good body control. It's just there's a lack of blocking consistency that's not there, which I think is going to prevent him from getting on the field, especially in a crowded tight end room in general. So, is he a deep stash? Okay. If you play in 28, 30, 35 roster, dynasty roster teams, potentially if you have a taxi squad, maybe, especially in a tight end premium. In non-tight end premiums, I'm probably not stashing him. But I will say, I give him a decent chance, even over a guy like Eric All, to potentially, win out the job a couple years down the line. So not a whole lot else to say about Tanner McLachlan. We'll see, a training camp battle to watch, maybe. And I think this is going to be the last video I make of these Dynasty Deep Stashes. It's kind of, it's July 16th. I think rookies are reporting to training camps this week. So we're kind of getting into regular season mode. So appreciate you guys watching this. Appreciate your support all off season. I believe we're 22 subscribers away at the time of recording this video from 500. Help us get there. And also like the video, and I will catch you all in the next one.